أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, say he is Allah, the one. Allah, as-Samad, meaning the one of which all creation relies on. He begets not, nor is he begotten, and there is none like him. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Islam for Europeans. I'm your host, Robert. Please like and subscribe. And I'm going to talk about part two of our three-part series of, I guess, traditional Dawah techniques. The last episode, I talked about open houses, right, as a method to, I guess, teach people about Islam. Now we're going to talk about Dawah booths. So, the Dawah booth has been a staple of any, kind of any Dawah organization. And just going to go through what are the benefits of Dawah booths, what are the limitations, and what are the do's and don'ts. So, right off the bat, we're not suggesting to get rid of Dawah booths. I mean, they have their place. They do do a lot of good work. As I stated before in this, Islam for Europeans, if you look at, the whole stages of, people discovering Islam and then converting and then staying as a Muslim, it's like a six-stage process. We use Prochaska's six-stage model, which they use for things like stop smoking. The vast majority of Dawah work focuses on the action stage, i.e., people taking their Shahada and becoming Muslim. And Dawah booths are definitely designed for that. And a lot of it is bringing people in. First let's define what a Dawah booth is. So, for those who are not aware, one of the ways that Muslims try to, talk about their faith is that they'll set up a booth. It could be at like an Islamic event. It could be just on the street. A lot of these people, they do like street Dawah. They'll have like pamphlets and forums and have educated Muslims answer people's questions about Islam, right? So, and it's effective, because you get people who come who are already interested in Islam usually, and maybe they're ready to convert to Islam, and they use it as like kind of a metric, for the success of a Dawah booth. Like how many shahadas do we get? Oh, we got like 100 shahadas in 1 month, and so they do have definitely effectiveness. So what kind of people actually go to a Dawah booth? Because in an open house, as we talked about last episode, most people go to an open house. Most of them already have a very positive opinion of Islam to begin with. It's very rare to get someone who just doesn't care about religion or Islam in general, or has a really negative attitude, to go into a mosque, because it's like foreign territory. So they'll usually never do that. But a Dawah booth, you're basically gonna get three people going to a Dawah booth. One are Muslims, obviously. Muslims, they want to go to Dawah booths. They want to give salam to the people, talking about Islam. They want to give salam to the da'i. They want to, maybe pick up, pamphlets or free Qurans. So you have Muslims going there a lot. The second group are people who already have an inquisitive or positive image of Islam to begin with, right? So maybe they're ready to take their shahada, or maybe they want to know know more questions. So these people who have already, and they have no problem, talking about religion or Islam in a public atmosphere, because a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about any type of controversial subject, in such a public atmosphere. And the third group are going to be haters, right? So, the anti-Islam people, the people who like to challenge Muslims, evangelical Christians, Zionists, these people who are usually like hound Dawah booths and start arguing with them. You'll see this on the streets of Toronto and Dundas Square. And it can really turn ugly quickly. But that just kind of comes with the territory. It's not a reason to stop doing a Dawah booth, but it's important to keep in mind that it kind of results in the real black and white worldview of what people's opinions are on Islam and Muslims, because you're going to get two extremes, right? You're going to get the haters and people who are really love Islam. So the people in between, the people who are neutral, these people are never going to approach a Dawah booth. So that's one of the limitations of a Dawah booth, is that you're not really reaching most of the population, right? So, and that just comes with the territory. Um, I do think that, like I said, it does have utility. The fact that someone takes their shahada, the reward is incredibly great for that. But in terms of like what happens after that, and I think that's where a lot of Dawah booths fall short, because they don't really have the resources to take in all these people who've taken their shahada. So you need like a different method, really. An organization for converts. You know, Maybe groups that, organizations that are willing to talk to their family members, or at least give them advice on how to deal with the fallout once they do take their shahada. Maybe you can give books and pamphlets on how to pray, and the rules and regulations for that. Beginners books on Islam, which usually Dawah books have anyway. But it's important to keep in mind, like I said, that it's not the be all and end all, right? Right. So, like you know, things about Dawah booths that are kind of controversial subjects. Should we do them? Should we not do them? In terms of like how it's set up. Um, Sometimes Dawah booths are in universities. So in universities, you're more likely going to get people who are interested in Islam to begin with, because they're more academic, like to contemplate things. The street, out on the street, is another place to have them. Um, those are basically like the two main avenues. And you know, one of the things you can do if you have a Dawah booth is it's a great chance, sometimes to develop like a questionnaire, because sometimes, we had one when we did a Dawah booth at the university before, where we had a quiz, basically test your Muslim IQ. We have like basic questions about what people thought about Islam, right? So, how many pillars of Islam are there? Like how many times per day do Muslims pray? And it basically gave people something to do, because when it comes to Dawah booths, like sometimes if you have panels up, people like to see things, but there's really not much to do other than establish discourse with the person running the Dawah booth. And sometimes people don't really want to do that. So having a sign out that says "Test your Muslim IQ," or some giving people some type of task to do, will draw more people in, I guess. And they can provide their feedback. And the good thing about that is you can do research at the same time, right? So that's a good opportunity, because you get people coming in, they're writing down their responses, and then they don't even have to show you your responses. They can just fold it up and put it into the box, and then you can just take your read your responses later. Now you have to be careful, because you're not going to get a representative sample of the population, because like I said, not everyone's going to approach a Dawah booth, but you can get some good information based on what people think about it. What they think about Islam, about Muslims. So that I think is a good idea. And then you can use the same questionnaire with Dawah booths, like a different avenue, different venues, different cities, and just sort of gauge like what the demographics are. You can have like demographic questions for people. People can leave their email address if they want, so you can follow up with them. So um, that it does. There are some opportunities that if you can take a look into, to sort of like add to like these particular Dawah booths and whatnot. But like I said, it's important to keep in mind that um, it, a Dawah booth at the end of the day, it's one piece of the puzzle in terms of the image of Islam in the West. Like it does accomplish some things, but it's not the only thing. Um, and I think when you compare Dawah booths to the third avenue that I'm going to talk about in my next video, which is social media, which is much more expansive and reaches far more many people. So it has the propensity to become either very positive or very negative. Dawah booths compared to social media, it's almost like population wise a drop in the ocean. Because how many people will approach a Dawah booth? like maybe 20, 50 people a day, if you're lucky, whereas, social media, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people might even watch that particular content, and they can watch that from, from their own home, basically, right? So, with the Dawah booth, like I said, it's a very it kind of creates like kind of a black and white worldview. Like you get the two extremes: people who love Islam, the people who hate Islam. That's kind of more magnified on the negative side when it comes to social media, because social media is going to attract more and more haters. Like they can, you have anonymous people just spouting nonsense all the time on social media. You're going to get people who are going to be much more likely to, express controversial views. Much more compared to, your actual, like an actual Dawah booth, and much less much more compared to an open house, right? So, like it's you just have to keep in mind that, and a lot of Muslims kind of get this kind of misconception that, this would actually, people on average think about us, what they think about our religion, um, when really we haven't really even started to do any type of like hardcore data analysis and research on the attitudes of what people think about Islam and Muslims in the West. So, like, in conclusion, I would say that, Weed Islam for Europeans, we're saying, don't get rid of the Dawah booths. They're important. It helps a lot of people out with the action phase. Because these people who are already interested in Islam, maybe they need to just take that extra step. But like I said, it's only one piece of the puzzle. I think Dawah booths, they really need to have in place references and other organizations, and some type of safety net for these people who do end up taking their shahada. I think that, they should say, like, look, give us your phone number, give us your email address if we're comfortable, or at least give them a card and say, look, this is an organization that deals specifically with converts. Because you may face, like, challenges related to your family, related to your work, because we don't want to see these people slip through the cracks. I mean, it's great that they took their shahada, but with many of these people, you never see them again, because like we just don't have the resources, to catch them, when they're going to fall. They're going to have more tough, controversial questions, right? And then on top of that, you need to realize that, I guess the aesthetics of the Dawah booth is important too, because you want people there, who could see that, that Islam is for everybody. I know a lot of people in Dawah booths, they like to wear the gutra or the shalwar kameez, or they wear their traditional clothing. Now, should they wear like Western clothing? I mean, I am under the opinion that, yes, it's probably it doesn't really matter all that much, but at least for people to see that, that it's okay to wear Western clothing as a Muslim. I'm sure people are aware of that. But, I think it really doesn't matter that much in terms of like clothing. But I do think that it is an important thing. Um, and yeah, and the other thing you have to be careful about is, when it comes to like a Dawah booths, is that, you want to have people who are, well trained, who are, well knowledgeable and everything. But, at the same time, they're gonna get questions that they're not going to be able to answer. So, like that's when you just say, "Look, I don't have the information on this. Let me get back to you on that." Which I'm sure that most, people who run Dawah booths are well aware of. So yeah. And, on top of that, just a final thing, I said the Dawah booths like to, that people like to take stage Dawah booths outside. And again, normally you only see these in large metropolitan cities, like Toronto, Ottawa, uh, Vancouver, large metropolitan areas. Where it's a very multicultural place. Very rarely are you going to see any type of Dawah booth in in a city that's like smaller and majority white. It just seems really, it'll seem really out of place. I'm not saying that it can't be effective, but I think in general, I think a lot of Muslims are kind of reluctant, to have a Dawah booth in a place that's predominantly non-Muslim and predominantly white. But, at the end of the day, like I said, it's better to have a Dawah booth than no Dawah booth. Like it does accomplish some things. I think they're important pieces of the puzzle. But I think the main critique is that just as is with the open house, that there needs to be a reference. Of people, the ability to refer people once they've taken their shahada or they have more questions about Islam, they're more interested in it. So that when they leave the Dawah booth, they're going to have more resources that they can reach out to, in order to, facilitate their conversion and staying in Islam. So that's it for the day. Please like and subscribe to Islam for Europeans. I'm your host, Robert, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help all of our brothers and sisters who are suffering in the world, particularly in Gaza. It's an absolutely horrible situation. May Allah for those who pass away, may Allah grant the highest level of paradise, and may Allah keep them safe through this horrible genocide. So that's it for today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.